How does enterprise architecture add value to an organisation? In the previous lesson, we described an enterprise and an extended enterprise. By the end of this lesson, you will be able to describe enterprise architecture, explain what it does, and its purpose. Enterprise architecture is a systematic way of describing and thinking about the structure of an enterprise. It's the process that governs the way an organisation creates, standardises, organises, and changes its IT capabilities within the context of its business to achieve its goals. An effective enterprise architecture allows the management and exploitation of information and digital transformation to enable a successful enterprise. Enterprise architecture adopts a rigorous and strategic approach to analysing, designing, planning, and implementing new IT capabilities to meet the business needs. This allows a business to stay on top of often rapidly emerging trends in its industry. A good enterprise architecture allows a business to achieve a balance between transformation and maintaining its necessary day-to-day activities. The process of enterprise architecture outputs a set of products that aid decision-making. These outputs cover business architecture, which details how the organisation's processes, structures and capabilities work together to deliver its strategic objectives. Application architecture, which defines the framework of an organisation's applications used to process data and support the business objectives. Data architecture, which describes the rules, policies, standards and models that govern the way data is collected, used and stored by the organisation's information systems. And technology architecture, which maps the application architecture to the software and hardware and provides a series of guidelines by which a business can acquire, build, integrate or modify its technological resources. An enterprise architect is a professional with the knowledge and skills to apply the discipline of enterprise architecture within an organisation. A good enterprise architect helps the business figure out the best strategy in relation to IT to achieve its aims. As such, a good enterprise architect will apply the discipline of enterprise architecture while taking into account the views of those affected by the change, also known as stakeholders, at the same time making the best use of available resources such as money, staff, or existing technology. In many businesses, the business strategy changes quickly, particularly in today's ever-changing digital economy. Anyone who works for a company knows it feels like they're introducing a new strategy every other week. Similarly, technology is rapidly evolving and introducing new ways of working as customers expect to be able to interact with companies using the latest technologies. This means that the regulations that apply to business and their use of technology are also changing rapidly to keep up. Businesses face competition from existing companies and new startups. If they are going to remain competitive, they need to adapt quickly to these new technologies, ways of working, and rules that govern them. On the other hand, IT infrastructure, so the hardware and software the business uses to process its data, and the business processes that govern the way they work, are relatively slow to change. If you work for a company, think about the last time it upgraded its hardware or invested in new software. Often companies may run the same hardware and software for many years, sometimes even for decades. Enterprise architecture bridges the gap between the rapidly evolving environment and the slowly changing IT infrastructure and business processes. Without enterprise architecture, each change to the system undertaken to enable the business to implement its latest strategy is done in isolation. This can result in multiple applications or processes running for different areas of the organisation that effectively do the same thing, but slightly differently. Alternatively, applications or processes continue to run that are no longer required, and this is not very effective or efficient. This web of individual applications and processes will interact with each other and the databases. These interactions will not necessarily have been well thought through or well documented. This leads to a horrendously complicated system with no way to fully understand what will happen if you change one element. It effectively behaves like the technological equivalent of Kaplunk. You can't quite see what's going on, and if you pull out the wrong straw, the whole thing's going to collapse. Without a detailed map of the system and a deeper understanding of how each part fits together and interacts with other components, changing anything becomes risky. It also takes a long time, as for each change you need to attempt to understand all the intricate connections. Enterprise architecture reduces the risk of change and speeds it up by ensuring that all changes are well documented, including their interaction with the existing system. Changes are only implemented if they are necessary. For example, you wouldn't build a new application if one already exists that could do the job with just a little tweaking. The implication of any change to the broader system is more easily understood. If you have a map of all the interactions, it's easier to see and anticipate how changes to one might affect the other. It's also much easier to understand when a change might render an old application or process useless. This can then be retired with confidence. Whenever there is a business transformation, for example, the business undergoes a merger or has new business goals such as some shiny new project or a radical change to its infrastructure such as upgrading its operating system, an enterprise architectural review is required. The enterprise architect ensures the developed IT capability supports the business objectives by assisting with the identification and refining of the stakeholders' requirements. Anyone who's worked in IT for more than a day understands that giving the customer what they ask for is rarely a good idea. It's never what they want. For example, if the director of a delivery firm asks for a parcel tracking application, is that really what they want? Well, not quite, because an application on its own is pretty useless. What they want is the ability to track parcels throughout its journey from warehouse to the customer's door. That requires much more than an application. For example, it may require delivery drivers to carry handheld devices that can remotely connect to the system to record when a parcel has been delivered. The enterprise architect works with the customer to understand what they truly want before deciding on and committing to a solution. The enterprise architect will produce a plan, including views of existing architecture, the target architecture, and details of the solution that will allow the business to move from one to the other. Throughout the process, the enterprise architect will address any concerns raised by stakeholders concerning the requirements or the proposed solution. They also explain any compromises that will be needed if there are any technical limitations to the system that doesn't allow all the requirements to be met. Likewise, they will detail any compromises required to meet the needs of the various stakeholders if they conflict. The process of enterprise architecture ensures that a coherent solution that meets the current needs of the business is adopted. At the same time, they will consider the long-term business strategy and ensure that the proposed solution works towards this, or at least doesn't prevent the business from achieving it in the long term. In this lesson, we covered the following key points. Enterprise architecture is a systematic way of describing and thinking about the structure of an enterprise. An enterprise architect is a professional with the knowledge and skills to apply the discipline of enterprise architecture within an organisation. And enterprise architecture bridges the gap between the rapidly evolving business environment and the slowly changing IT infrastructure and business processes. In the next lesson, we will be answering the question, what are the benefits of enterprise architecture? Please subscribe and click the bell icon, making sure to select all to be notified when the next lesson is available. If you found this lesson helpful, please like and share this video to help me help others studying enterprise architecture.